My friend Antony and the author of the book, Antony informed me about this publication and I was really delighted. And all the more so because when I saw it's Global Forum of Indian Christians. Frankly speaking, I was really deeply heartened to see this. Because Christianity in India has immensely contributed, to the idea of India. And let me tell you that when Gandhi in South Africa started his satyagraha, and he said, and eventually came to India, launched the Champaran Satyagraha and all that. So during the course of the freedom struggle, he raised a very interesting point. Well, we talk of satyagrahis. Who were the satyagrahis, either in mythology or in history, who would be the source of inspiration for us to be satyagrahis? So he identified 5 satyagrahis in mythology and history. According to Gandhi, first satyagrahi he found in Hindu mythology, Bhakt Prahlad, a child who was reciting the name of Lord Hari, but his father adopted all violent techniques to eliminate him and to stop reciting the name of the Lord Hari. But Gandhi said, while his father was dictating through violent means to stop reciting Hari, Bhakt Prahlad never prayed Hari to kill his father. So Gandhi said, like Prahlad, we have to fight against British rule without hating the Britishers. Second satyagrahi according to Gandhi was from Greek history, Socrates. And that example is well known. Third satyagrahi according to Gandhi was Jesus Christ. Fourth satyagrahi, he said, is from Islam, Imam Hussain. And that example is also well known. And fifth satyagrahi, he said, is the only woman satyagrahi, that is Mirabai. Because Mirabai was poisoned. She was thrown out of her princely palace, from her palace. And then her guru was a Dalit, Raidas. She composed hymns, but in none of the hymns she had any ill will against the perpetrators, that is her husband, her in-laws. So therefore, Gandhi chose satyagrahis from mythology, Hindu mythology, from Islam, from Christianity. So the method of struggle of Gandhi was based on confluential approach by embracing all faiths. So this is the significant example of Atmanirbhar Bharat. For satyagraha and non-violence, Gandhi didn't look up to America or England or Germany or anywhere else. So this is a fine example of Atmanirbhar in terms of method of struggle. So therefore, I must say, Global Forum of Indian Christians has certainly made a great contribution in upholding democracy by saying that democracy has been derailed. Anyway, whatever it is, I think this is one of the finest books I have ever read during last 1 year. Why I say finest? Because I think this was published, or articles must have been collected sometime back. So I was fascinated to note in this by Devasayam, who has written a piece, how the electoral rolls are purged in India and stealing of mandate. And I was really absorbed by that article. He said in Kanyakumari, there are a large number of Christians. There's a meeting that took place in Vivekananda Kendra. And in that meeting, RSS functionaries were there. Even the Tamil Nadu officers from the Chief Electoral Office, they were there. And they said, you please delete the names of the Christians from the electoral roll. Mr. Devaswamy has given an account. You see, in spite of that, the BJP could not win. And then it gives examples from Karnataka, several other places. Before the vote chori slogan was coined and Rahul Gandhi proved by using the election commission data, lakhs of pages. that there was a vote chori or allegations of vote chori in Mahadevpur and finally in another constituency in Karnataka. So this book has already contains that article where it's written stealing of mandate. And similarly, it talks about constitution, it talks about constituent assembly, and so on and so forth. So democracy is being derailed by even looking at the constituent assembly from the perspective of Sanatan Dharma. And it was done by none other than Prime Minister Modi. You might recall his statement. 80 to 90% or even more members of the Constituent Assembly were Sanatanis, and they were behind Ambedkar, and therefore Ambedkar could give such a great constitution. I mean, this is how, even the Constituent Assembly is being looked at from the perspective of religion. Probably nobody did it in the history of India. I mean, in the post-independence period. In fact, I looked at the Constituent Assembly debate, every day's debate, because they are not available online. Did any member talk about Hindu Rashtra? Not a single member, not a single one, including K.M. Munshi. Every one of them talked about a secular state. So, I mean, even that Constituent Assembly has been looked at from the perspective of Sanatani or Sanatan Dharma by none other than Prime Minister. And here in this book, there is P.J. Jose has referred to, Rajendra Prasad going to attend the consecration of Somnath temple, disregarding advice of Prime Minister Nehru. And then he said, at least there was a Prime Minister who could advise a President of India not to go there. In fact, I wrote a piece for The Wire on this issue. It was not only Prime Minister Nehru who advised Rajendra Prasad. Prime Minister Nehru requested Rajgopalachari, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, and many other leaders to prevail on Rajendra Prasad. And all of them tried to persuade, please don't go, but he went. But here in Ram temple in Ayodhya, when Prime Minister, he made a statement, Ram is Rashtra, Dev is Desh. So literally going against the very foundation of a secular state as enshrined in the constitution. But Rajendra Prasad, when he went to Somnath temple, consecration ceremony, and delivered this speech, and that speech was delivered in Hindi. Its English version was published in the print. It's a very fascinating speech. He said, because of religious bigotry, more number of people have been killed in this world than by any war or anything. So therefore, to avoid such a religious bigotry in this country, we created a secular state. At least there was a president who disregarded Nehru's advice, Rajaji's advice, Radhakrishnan's advice, but talked about secularism in Somnath temple. And it is important to flag this point. And then it's very interesting that in this book, I was very impressed by another article. It's called Mass Prayer in Manipur. Mass Prayer in, the power of mass prayer in Manipur. I don't know whether that prayer was organized inside the church. Obviously, churches were burnt, places of worship were burnt, people were thrown out of their houses, homes, and unspeakable assaults on women were executed ruthlessly. Okay, so I remember here in this context, the meaning of prayer given by Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi was requested to set up a temple in Sabarmati Ashram, place an idol. And that request came from Miraben during 1930s. Gandhi refused to have a temple and an idol to be placed inside the temple. And he said, we pray in open air. And the ceiling of the prayer hall, of that open air prayer hall, is the sky. 4 directions, east, west, north, south, they constitute the walls of the prayer hall. And the objective of praying in such an open air prayer hall is to transcend the boundaries of religion, nationality, and whatever identities that could be. So this is the meaning of this, prayer, open air prayer, open prayer in Manipur. And this is something which really struck me so deeply. And similarly, there are many other instances. I think there is a reference to former Chief Justice Chandrachud's, judgment on Ram Temple and what he said yesterday. And of course, he had said earlier, while a Chief Justice, that Places of Worship Act of 1991 doesn't prevent to conduct a survey. And that led to all kinds of complications. So, here in this book, somewhere Mr. K.R. Narayanan has been quoted. And I had the good fortune of working under him. Okay, so, in the context of what Chandrachud said, I recall, this is the 75th anniversary of Supreme Court. And during the 50th anniversary of Supreme Court, Mr. Narayanan was invited to inaugurate it. And he said, he quoted one Richard Ingram's. He was editor of Private Eye, a London-based newspaper. Richard Ingram said, law courts are no more considered as cathedrals but as casinos, where things are decided on the throw of the dice. And that created a huge controversy on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of Supreme Court. And Mr. Narayanan called me at 9 o'clock night one day. He said, where did Richard Ingram's write that law courts are no more considered as cathedrals? I contacted our High Commissioner in London. They put me through Richard Ingram's. And he said, well, I wrote in 1977, there's an article in London Guardian, and the title of the article was Rich Man's Law. I think those things are playing out in India today, the rich man's law. Okay, so these are the things which come to mind when I read this book. It's a very fascinating, absorbing book. And of course, there are many other things which I had flagged, and I'll just mention 1 or 2 points. Here the basic structure doctrine of the Constitution that was challenged even by Mr. Dhankar in the very house, and finally he had to resign. And I wrote an article in the Wire, it's called A Dog Whistling Vice President. When I was introduced to, Suhas Burkhan introduced me to Jawahar Sarkar, he said, Jawahar, he is Mr. Sahu. Sahu, dog whistling vice president? And Venu suggested that title to me. And I wrote it and it was published. So they said, hey, you worked in Rajya Sabha Secretariat, you are putting yourself at stake. Your pension would be stopped. I said, none can stop my pension. Okay, so my point is, these are the things which are coming in this book, and it's really, really a fascinating book, I must say. And then here I'll just conclude. There is, here in page 22, 19 months of emergency pales into insignificance in the context of what is happening in last 10 years or 11 years. And again, I got a copy of Jayaprakash Narayanan's letter from Suhas Burkar. He's here. During the thick of emergency, I think in December 75, he wrote a letter to Indira Gandhi. He said, Madam Prime Minister, if you have guts, lift emergency, restore freedom of speech, and then conduct elections, and you will find that you would lose the mandate of the people. At least Jayaprakash Narayan had faith on the election commission during the thick of the emergency. that if elections would be conducted, Indira Gandhi would be defeated. But can anybody have that kind of faith in the Election Commission now, in this undeclared emergency? So these are the points, dots we need to join to understand. But at the end, I must say, Antony quoted Bernard Levin, the editor of, I think, that newspaper in London, who says that if there is a danger to democracy in India, this means there is a danger to democracy everywhere. It is quoted here. I had the good fortune of reading that lecture of Bernard Levin that lecture was delivered in Kerala. I think Malayalam Manorama, he invited him. So then he said the last line of defense of democracy is the press. But that last line itself is now being endangered. But at the same time, I think now people have come forward to defend the Constitution, to save the Constitution. No party ever actually gave that narrative, no political party during 2024 elections, that Constitution is in danger. I think it evolved because that narrative, after the BJP leaders, they said, 400 par ke baad hum samvidhan badal denge. So now that has gained huge momentum, and combined with it the vote chori. Even in Amit Shah's meeting, he said, Rahul Baba aaye the, kya bole? He said, vote chori. And Amit Shah was really completely, he lost his face. So this is, I think now eventually people have come forward to protect India, to protect India's democracy. What is being done here in India by Election Commission, in close collaboration with the powers that be, was done in South Africa in 1894, when Gandhi started his first struggle in defense of the voting rights of Indians. In Natal Legislative Assembly, British authorities moved a bill to disenfranchise Indians. Gandhi wrote petitions and petitions after petitions. And Gandhi was told that you tell your Indians to prove that they were voting in India to qualify themselves as voters in South Africa. Exactly the same thing is being done through SIR in Bihar by Election Commission to prove that Biharis are Indian citizens. And then Gandhi was told, in the electoral list of Natal, there are more Muslims than Hindus. And if they are allowed to continue in the electoral roll, Muslims will dominate over Hindus. They gave a communal twist. I wrote a piece for The Wire. So the colonial authorities in South Africa, they were trying to disenfranchise Indians, and that is being played out in India now. And luckily, the Vote Adhikar rally never ever, even during freedom movement, there was a rally or satyagraha or a movement organized for adult franchise or for Vote Adhikar. But on the 75th year of Constitution, this is being done. But people eventually, as Gandhi once said, he was asked a question, how would you fight against the mighty British Empire? He said, with the strength of dumb millions. I think the people are now coming forward, to defend the Constitution, and as Fabian sir said, re-railing of democracy is possible. Thank you.